We don't live in a utopian society. We have locked doors most other days except for voting, election days. There are children, I know that the schools don't have school most of the time on election day, but I know there are children in an extended day, the extended day program in most of the elementary schools. So I fully support this plan. I know that, our public safety officials also support this plan, and I hope all of you will as well. So do you have any questions? And I just want to thank, I've spoken to most of you about this, and I just want to thank you all for your time. And I think we weighed many different options, but I think given the makeup of the town, where our schools are located, I think this is the best plan. So I hope you'll all support it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else that would like to speak to us in open session?
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. I am here to read a brief letter from Chief Curran in support of the polling consolidation effort. And this came to my desk this afternoon. Dear Town Manager Cohen and Board of Selectmen, this office has reviewed Town Clerk Honorina Maloney's proposed unified polling plan to consolidate polling locations from the current 5 locations down to 2. With specific regard to voting at the gym at 50 Billerica Road, this office is in favor of relocating to a more suitable location. With the opening of the new fire headquarters, this office is concerned about the ability of the site to accommodate the total number of voters, candidates, ancillary staff, and observers at the peak periods of operation. In addition, this office is concerned about the special care needs that are needed to make this site accessible to voters with disabilities. The proposed plan presents some opportunities to address our concerns, and we look forward to working with the town to this end. Please call me with any questions, concerns. Sincerely, Mike Curran, Fire Chief. Thank you all.
Thank you.
I'm back again, but only for 2 minutes. My name is Mary Donovan of Tanglewood Drive. I have 3 copies that I thought one was requested by one individual, and I made 2 extras regarding the fire station. So I would like to hand them to you if you don't mind. And I'll get out of here.
And Mary, I'll bring you that
Don't
application.
forget you, and this is for you.
Thank you.
It's on the historical thing.
Great, thank you.
And when it comes time for the committee to be picked, please, I would like to be on it. I may not have the experience, but I sure can make phone calls. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, anybody else that would like to speak to us in open session? Okay, we will move on to committee vacancies.
Okay, committee vacancies as of December 1st, 2014. There is 1 vacancy on the Civic Committee, 2 vacancies on the Community Preservation Fund Committee, 2 vacancies on the Cultural Council, 1 vacancy on the Energy Conservation Committee, 1 vacancy on the Great Brook Farm Advisory Committee, 1 vacancy on the Historical Commission, 1 vacancy on the Land Management Subcommittee, and 1 vacancy on the Personnel Board. If you're interested in serving on a town board or committee, please fill out the committee application. It's available on the town website, www.townofchelmsford.us.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is public hearings, but I don't see our representative from Verizon here, so we will pass over that. And the tax classification hearing is advertised for 7:30, so we can't do that one yet, so we'll go right to licenses. We have a 1-day beer and wine license for Parker Middle School. Susan Loisel.
From National Grid.
Oh, okay.
Waiting for Joe Gleason to.
Yeah, he's going to be here
From
shortly.
Verizon.
Joe's coming, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so we can take you.
We'll come back as soon as Joe.
Sorry. I know Joe, I didn't.
Okay, that's fine. I'm Therese Cohane, representing Sue Loisel from Parker Middle School. We are hoping to have a small gathering of teachers and other staff at the Chelmsford Arts Center on December 11th from 6 to 9, and was hoping to get a one-day license for that.
Okay, anybody have any questions for the applicant? We have a
We ready?
motion? Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I make a motion to approve a one-day beer and wine license for Susan Loisel on December 11th, 2014, for the hours of 5 o'clock PM to 10 o'clock PM to be exercised on the premises at 1A North Road.
Seconded, and a question.
Sure.
It says Susan Loisel is responsible manager, but it says tips certified, no.
Do we have a tip certified?
Yes, we are definitely getting that. I don't have it with me. The caterer, I think, is getting it, but I understand that we have to have that
Okay, yeah, they won't give you a license here
Right.
until you provide that.
Show
Yep.
it, yeah.
till I show it.
So I'll amend the motion to say pending tip certification.
Seconded,
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Congratulations. We have a one-day beer and wine license for Susan Gates. There she is.
Good evening. I'm here because we're looking for a one-day license for the 2 performances of the Chelmsford Holiday Party Pops. And that's this Saturday. There's a show at 2 o'clock and at 7:30. Santa Claus will be there. So I think you should all be there, too. Our tip certified bartender is Joe Varnum, who's on record already with you.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Anything else you'd like to tell us about your events?
Well, it is a joint event with the Chelmsford Community Jazz Band, the Chelmsford Center for the Arts, and Illumination Opera. So it's similar format as when you go to the Boston Pops, only you don't have to drive so far. And we have 2 guest presenters at the 2 o'clock show. Nancy Tuttle, who I think you all know from the Lowell Sun, will be presenting. And at the 7 o'clock performance, Paul Cohen will be our special guest presenter. So it'll be a lot of fun. It's holiday music. There's a sing-along. Santa will arrive, and there'll be treats for everybody. So I hope that you'll come, bring the family. The tickets are $20 for adults and $10 for students. The money goes to support all the 3 organizations that I already mentioned, the band, the Illumination Opera, and the Chelmsford Center for the Arts. So hope to see you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're ready for a motion.
I make a motion to approve a one-day beer and wine license for Chelmsford Center for the Arts on December 6, 2014, for the hours of 2 o'clock PM to 4 o'clock PM and 7 o'clock PM to 9 o'clock PM to be exercised on the premises at 1A North Road.
Seconded,
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Okay, and we have a request for extension of hours for Hong and Kong Restaurant.
She's here.
Hello, good evening. How are you? I'm Corinne Ng from Hong Kong Restaurant, and this is
former bartender Hong Kong.
Yeah, he's been working here for over 20 years, and we would like to apply for the extension for the hours on the 24th
25th.
and 25th
And the New Year.
the New Year's Eve as well. Yeah, because those nights are fall on the weeknights, so that's why we
Extend the hour.
need the extension. Yeah.
That's 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, yes.
Yep.
Any questions for the applicant? Additional questions? Okay, entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve an extension of hours to a 2 o'clock AM closing for Hong and Kong Restaurant for the following dates: December 24th, 25th, and 31st, to be exercised on the premises at 32 Alpine Lane.
Seconded,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, would the Board of Assessors like to do their report on the overlay accounts at this time, or we can wait until after the classification hearing? You want to do it now? Okay.
Oh, and John Sousa's here for the.
Thank you very much. This is about the overlay. I was asked to do a presentation kind of describing it. And the overlay account is established annually to fund the anticipated property tax abatements, personal exemptions, and outstanding taxes in the fiscal year. The overlay reserve is not established in a normal appropriation process, but rather is raised in the recap and certified by the Department of Revenue. The areas we begin to think about when trying to come up with a number for the overlay, we have to consider the abatements. What are the recent activities within the real estate market that might drive the increase in abatement activity? ATB, pending ATB cases, the level of exposure, what kind of valuations are sitting there at the appellate tax board that we need to consider. The statutory exemptions are exemptions for the elderly, the blind, returning military veterans. All of these exemptions, they're given breaks on the taxes between $400 and $500 depending, and this is funded out of the overlay account. Also, the senior work program is funded through this account, and that's I think $75,000 right now. The other thing that has to be considered when coming up with the overlay reserve is any outstanding taxes. John has excellent payment schedule of around 99%, but that still leaves a fairly substantial amount that could be uncollected. That has to be accounted for with the overlay account. This slide here, the way the DOR often represents the overlay isn't just the value or the amount, but the percentage of the levy. So what I did was I took a 10-year average of many of the communities that we continually look at different analysis and come up with the average over that 10-year span against the levy. And you can see that Acton around 90.94, and on Bedford about almost 2, Billerica over 2%, and Chelmsford at 0.95. This is a 5-year average that Darlene put together for me. And this shows beginning balances, open property tax receivables, that is to say the unpaid taxes that I just spoke of, as well as exemptions and abatements that were granted during that year. And the areas highlighted in red show that we could not have released any money. We were technically in a deficit for those years, largely due to the outstanding receivables. We're aware that those, particularly on the real estate side, will be paid back. But for the time being, we have to show that, cover that, those deficits. You can see that into 2013, it begins to get a little bit better. But none of these numbers reflect any ATB cases or any, well, we have the abatements in there, but no ATB cases are reflected in these numbers. The next slide shows the kind of cases that we often have. And you can see by the valuation they're substantial. Some of them are more modest, the residential, of course. We have maybe 3 or 4 residential. All the years, we have 2 cases, I believe, in last year for fiscal 13. The rest are in 2014. We had at one point dozens and dozens of cases that we've been able to get off the docket, either having them heard or they withdrew or we settled. I'll take any questions.
I have a quick question. The senior work program, could you just refresh our memory how
Sure.
much that is? And
They get, I believe, $750 if they work 75 hours. We've had a number of them work in my office. I know the clerk's office and certainly the tax collector's office. They work, any number of them work there, get their hours, and they can get the $750. And there's any number of departments within the town that they can also work for.
Okay.
It's a good program.
So who sets the $750? Is that the state?
It's by
Paul?
statute. And town meeting set the $75,000 threshold. I think it was updated about 3 or 4 years ago to $75,000.
Yeah.
But by statute, they it can go up to $1,000 they can earn under the program. But what the senior center has done in the administration of the program is they basically, within that $75,000 cap, funding allocation, they've tended to spread the money out and have more people participate rather than go to the maximum earning level and have fewer be able to participate.
When it was first implemented, just about when I came here, it was $20,000, so it's gone up to the 75, and there's been a lot more participation. It's worked out well for everybody.
Do we hit that cap each year? I mean, are there are there seniors that we turn away?
There probably are. I'm not too aware of that. That's run through the senior center. I suspect that there are some turned away.
And there are some that we just stop because they've hit the maximum hours.
Right.
Okay. Well, maybe that's something we should consider bringing to Springtown meeting, is since our property taxes keep going up, maybe it's time to revisit the $75,000 cap, and more people can participate.
Something we could consider, I mean, but, yeah.
Yeah, talk
Okay.
to the
For
senior center
another-
about the interest level and how
Okay.
many people are.
Maybe if we can add it to the next agenda, since
Sure.
we have a deadline coming up.
Well, that's not for us, that's for citizen
Well,
petitions.
but still, I
Right.
mean, I'd
We
like
have a
for us to
little bit.
start talking about
Sure.
it sooner rather than later, and I'll do a little homework and see what some surrounding communities.
I was just going to say, the DOR tracks these things pretty well, I think. I can find out what communities have gone to that $1,000 limit and see what kind of success they've had.
That would be
with it.
great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's fine.
How many hours does that represent?
75?
Yeah, yes, in that case. Yeah, it's basically be at $10 an hour.
Yeah, all right.
They generally have tied it around the minimum wage level.
Right.
And so they've done it.
Okay, yeah. Sounds good.
Any other questions for Frank on,
In the beginning, you said you set the budget differently, way back.
Right. It's a line on the recap that it isn't a real appropriation. It's a line on one of the pages that the overlay is put in, and it's certified by the Department of Revenue. They've often kicked it back and said, no, you have, not often. They've, a couple of times they said, you have to increase it somewhat given the kind of exposure, particularly some of the telecom cases that are still hanging out there.
Yeah. Now, I noticed that a couple of years there were over. Why did they go over, and then the recent years didn't?
Well, in the recent years, what that is reflecting also are the receivables, where that red line was.
Mhm.
You can see that some of the receivables are really what's driving some of that. We have quite a bit in exemptions too, as well as abatements, but the receivables standing there at 800,000, 900,000 for 2012 and so on. That reflects a relatively low percentage of our levy, but still it's something we have to cover in the overlay.
Okay. And the other years, we didn't see things coming? Or?
We saw them come in. Some cases were settled. In 2013, we had a huge payoff for a telecom case. That's a centrally valued telephone lines over public ways. Centrally valued meaning the Department of Revenue sets the value. We have to go by it. It was challenged in court, and the ATB found in their favor for that year. There's still many years still outstanding that we're hoping to have heard soon and maybe get a more favorable ruling.
Well, I mean 2010, 11, and 12. Those are red.
Those are red because, once again, what's driving them is the receivables. And then we also had increased level. We began to increase in 2012 the amount of overlay balance to kind of reflect that, to show the kind of abatements that we've been seeing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
anything else for Frank?
Sam Chase, Chairman of the Board of Assessors. I think our Finance Director can add a little bit more to what was just said.
Yeah, just to expand upon what Frank just presented to the board, on the outstanding receivables, what this is that's a snapshot basically on June 30th at the end of the fiscal year of what's on the books. Just to assure the board and residents, we do collect, I would say, over 99.99% of all real estate tax because there's a process for the town to go through. Once we place a tax lien, it secures the town's interest. The one area that can be a little difficult is personal property tax, which is a tax on business equipment. But in terms of percentage, if you were to go through the records in my office, out of roughly $3 million that's levied, we tend to get down to an area somewhere around $10,000, $20,000. We take a number of steps that we're allowed to under law. We use a third-party debt collector. We take other steps. I'd probably go more in depth with the board offline on that, so we don't give our strategy away. But most of that is what I'm basically trying to say is, at that moment in time that you're looking at that on June 30th, it says open property tax receivables. It's just a matter of time and statutory process that we have to go through, but we recover that each year for the town. It's just a cyclical, the nature of it, that as we're collecting a prior year, a new levy year is coming on the book, so it's an ongoing process. But I just wanted to assure everyone that we do collect over 99% of that amount that you see.
Thank you. Any other questions about the overlay account from anyone? Okay, thank you. So John, if you want to come back up and give your report on the bond refunding opportunity.
Sure. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Tonight, I'd like to provide you just with an update. I know you have the email that kind of explains it in your packets, but just to explain for everyone in the audience and at home, I just wanted to provide you with an update on an opportunity that I'm working on. I've been working on for the past few weeks with our financial advisor that assists with our bonds. And basically, because of the low market interest rates that still exist, we have an opportunity to refinance roughly $9.4 million of bonds that were issued back in 2007. You see the breakdown there. $7 million went to finance earlier pre-2005 stages of the sewer construction project, so that's exempt debt. And then we still have a few years remaining on the police station, and that's roughly about $2.4 million. So what this will do for the town is, for the remaining years on this bond between fiscal year 16 and 22, if everything stays as it is today, and this is a projected savings, we would be able to save roughly about $800,000 over the next 7 fiscal years, just with the differential in interest rates. And so in the municipal world, it's called a refunding. It's basically similar to refinancing what a lot of homeowners do. You refinance your mortgage. Reason I wanted to bring it to the board and the town manager's attention is that to keep the process moving, we will likely have a conference call with Standard & Poor's in early January. We would seek a bond rating at that time, and then the tentative sale date is scheduled for January 13th. So we have to keep our fingers crossed when I say projected savings. Hopefully, everything in the world will stay as it is. The economy will stay stable. We won't have any events that will rattle the bond market between now and mid-January. And if things stay as they are today, that's a pretty good amount of interest savings that we can generate going forward. So just wanted to bring that up, and it's something we'll be working on over the next 45 days.
Okay, thank you.
John, the 800,000, is that per year or over the period?
That's over the 7 years, so
Okay.
it's roughly about 114, 115,000 a year in interest savings.
That was the other one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe.
Okay.
Bob, you gotta raise your seat.
What? I'm a pillow over there.
You gotta raise your seat.
I know, it's awful. Don't I feel like a shrimp over here, huh? And I look,
Couple
when I
of books
sat
out of the
down.
bookshelf there, will you?
You're killing me.
Oh, okay. I couldn't find it when I
you
first got
laugh?
in. Okay, how's that, better? I felt like I was under the table.
Sit next to Bob. You ever see the Patriots game?
I figured I had done something wrong at town meeting, so that's why they put me in.
I was trying so hard.
All right, we'll go back now to public hearings, and I see that a representative from Verizon is here and National Grid. I guess we do have some confusion about this poll petition, so if you both want to come up to the microphone and try to explain it to us.
Madam Chairman, if you might, I'm going to speak with my associate from National Grid for 1 minute. We're all friends.
Take it outside.
Not what he said.
I was wondering how I was gonna do the motion. I just didn't think I could hold it.
Make sure you'll do it for me.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. For the record, Joseph Bliss from Verizon New England. I've spoken to Mr. Boucher from National Grid. We've got this sorted out. He'll speak to the National Grid aspect of this
Okay,
project.
now are there actually two polls and two
No,
different petitions?
Mr. Boucher will speak to what National Grid wants, and then I will follow up with what National Grid and Verizon are looking for.
Okay,
He'll explain it to you.
okay, all right.
Basically, what we're looking for is the rights to bring in our ducts to provide the electricity to the new development, 16 buildings, so that we can run our cable through those ducts and into the development from the new pole location. Now, the new pole location is something Mr. Gleason is going to ask for, a joint owned location where we'll both own the pole, but the telephone company will set the pole.
So your petition is really for the conduit going into the...
Conduit going in.
Okay,
Only,
Gotcha.
yeah.
okay, all right. These are, I guess these were advertised as separate petitions, so why don't we, take yours first? This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here that would like to speak about this petition?
Madam Chairman, members of the board, my name is Brian Sullivan. I'm an attorney here in Chelmsford, 18 North Road. Here representing Garrison Place. They're the owners of 313 Littleton Road, which is adjacent to this proposed pole. My client, and I have Nancy Cheng here, who's the president of Garrison Place here this evening. And what her concern is, because she's the one that's most affected by this new proposed pole, is that they're proposing this new pole, whereas there exists right now one pole on her property, as you can see located on the plan there, and another one to the left of the new development, which is 311 Littleton Road. And, we all know that, in this town, it's hard to get rid of poles once they go up. So her concern is it's another distraction for people coming down the road as far as to see, her place of business, which is located, off the street. And she just has a sign there, which this would affect people coming and the viewing of her sign. The other thing is, too, is that on the plan submitted by the developers of was it Chelmsford Hillside Gardens, it shows that the utilities are coming out to the left-hand side of the driveway as it abuts Littleton Road, showing that it seems to appear that they're going to utilize the pole, which is closest to the driveway of the new development on the left-hand side. And I don't know why, and I'd like to hear an explanation of my client would as to why that pole is not being considered anymore, because apparently it was when the original pole went in. And the second thing is, the board was just mentioning, it seemed to me there was two locations, one on the Verizon and one on the National Grid plan, and we wanted some, assurances, if the pole was to be approved, that it wasn't going to disturb my client's property, in the least. And, the cables going through my client's property, or some disruption in the construction of the pole.
Okay, well,
Okay.
yeah, the hearing that we're on right now is for the conduit. Can you answer that question? Does it, for the conduit part of it anyway?
Well, the conduit would go into the property as shown and wouldn't go on to the property of 313. It would basically be built on 311 by the developer. And then it would approach the pole, and it would be on the far side of the traffic flow for the riser to come up the pole, which would be in the if it is north, I can see it now, in the southwestern part of the pole, away from traffic flow. That's where the pipes would come up. We always do that, construct risers in that fashion. I'm not sure if the gentleman here was referring to the left-hand side of something. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not. But
Your original plan, right here, why you change the plan? Why?
Again, my client's concern is that, on the Verizon plan, this shows the proposed pole being further down, Littleton Road, and whether, in putting the cables in, whether they have to go through her property or not. On the National Grid plan, it shows that it's basically a straight shot out from the driveway. So I guess that's a little clarification that we would want.
Yeah, I can see where we've got a little bit of a problem. Initially, on one date, I believe it was the 21st, it was sent in from us with a distance of 68 feet. Verizon then sent on the next day a distance of 70 feet from the next pole up. So there's a 2-foot difference in the petitions. These petitions are not to scale, and I believe ours actually distinguishes that also. Somewhere we always have a disclaimer. Distances are approximate. So
you'll go off wherever the pole gets installed, and that would be the Verizon petition, is that correct then?
correct. Initially, it came through as a solely owned pole, which would have been placed only by us. But then it looks as though the next day Verizon sent their petition to you with a 2-foot difference and a different picture for the customer to see. You know, one that looks a little bit different from ours. Ours looks like it's this straight shot. Two different drafters looking to make two different pictures. So, but as you may know already, we own 3 feet around the pole. That right to, like, when a pole gets hit, we can move it a couple feet over to one side without having to come to a meeting during accidents and whatnot. It's a 3-foot diameter, so a radius, excuse me. But I'm not sure if that's straightening things out for you.
You actually
But
have
that
6
was
feet.
still looking, what's that?
You actually have 6 feet, right, to play with?
It's a 6-foot
Yeah.
diameter, if you will, yeah.
So I guess, Mrs. Chen, what would you need to hear from them to give you some comfort that they're not going?
It's right in my frontage. Okay, if it's 3 feet further toward my property, I want to show they are not on my property. Plus, have you seen the cable? Cable is this thick because I saw that and I had someone install it for my property. And that cable you cannot turn, they go straight line. You can have a 45-degree turn. So how can they put a pole on my frontage and go to my neighbor's property without passing my property? I can tell you the history. That's why I give you the last page. Back many years ago, the owner, see the last page, the owner? What's his name? Samuel Rotteney. He bought the property, and then he wanted to build a truck repair shop. And then he went to the bank to get a mortgage. And the banker told him, you have to get the air right from Nancy. So I went to the town, and the town inspector said, "What, Nancy, why you gave somebody your air right? Even a repair shop, they will violate my air right." And you know, this property is only 7 feet frontage. They don't have room to put any riser or anything there. And they do, you can see, they do have another entrance from Route 110. They don't want to do that way, and they want to take my property away. That's just ridiculous. See the second page? They have 2 entrances, and then the other one is much wider. You don't put your riser in front of your neighbor's property. Well, I don't mind. I mean, if you can do it without violating my property, I'm fine. I have nothing to say. You know, you can't just do this. I want to pull here, and it's 3 feet in, 3 feet out, 3 feet this way, 3 feet that way. That's...
Well, you're right. They can't trespass on your property
Right.
when they're
And the cable
installing
is
this.
Thing. You can ask
So-
him. And then why they changed the? You see, the original plan is on the other side. They use the pole right here. There's a pole right here. The number is P88. See, they want to put a ADA and a half.
Right.
ADA, they can put a riser. I have a color picture, tell you what riser is. All they have to do is put a conduit, like a metal tube. So they can put the line from overhead to the underground. Why they don't use this one and then want to put another one near my property and block my sign? I'm telling you, if they just 1 inch over my property, they have to get out. You have no right
That's
to
exactly
say,
right.
okay, have Verizon or National
Right.
Grid take Nancy Chan's property.
You're right about that. You're absolutely right. So,
That's why I brought my attorney here, make sure
okay.
I have the right.
So, Mr. Boucher, even if we approve this, then obviously you have to be aware that somebody's going to be watching on what's
Right.
going on here.
I don't think we're asking for it to be in front of her property. I
Okay.
think if you look at the two diagrams, the Verizon version doesn't show property lines. Ours does. In ours, you can see that it's in front of the new development.
So can you point out where
See
it
how
is?
there's no, on that Verizon version?
Can you go to that? Did Mr. Gleason say that you were originally looking for two, and now you're gonna just use one pole? Is that
We're only
what-
looking for one pole. One pole.
That's, I think, where the confusion is. She thinks you're putting two poles, I think.
No.
No,
She
we're-
knows.
We're putting the one in the middle, and she's saying, why can't you use the one that's already there?
The one that's already there, pole 88, is, it is 65 feet away. I can't
Right.
see the number from my angle. 68 feet away.
So do you know which side of that driveway the pole is actually going to be on?
The driveway.
Yeah, the driveway
piece
that
of
goes
land
into the.
Cutting in there?
The westerly side.
Okay, see, they didn't put a ADA here. ADA is right here.
Mhm.
It's on advanced technology part. ADA is right here.
Hmm.
And you see the original plan, they plan to use this one. Okay, original plan, that's why I make a copy. I did my homework. And then, all of a sudden, I walk my property every single day. And he say, oh, that pole is not in front of my frontage. That's not right, because they have a survey that they put those orange stick along that. And that pole is this much over that survey line. And originally, I didn't know what that post is, so I keep on taking out until I saw the National Grid and the Verizon and get the letter from you. I know so I'm 100% no, it's not
Okay.
on there.
Okay, so
Excuse me.
I guess I guess what we need to do, we need to confirm that the surveys are correct and that where this is gonna be put is correct. I mean, we seem to have some conflict here that says that where you surveyed isn't, according to
Right.
Mrs. Chen, is not right.
And being that it is Verizon that is, in effect, asking for this pole location, I would ask that they be the ones that come up with a better picture
Mhm.
for, for petitioning
Okay.
and going through with this process.
Is there any reason why they can't go to 88?
To what?
88?
88, from what that's looking, to me, if 88, I don't know. If 88 is where she's saying,
Yeah.
and she may be right, I'm not denying that. I
Seems-
didn't design this.
Seems they could bring the wire up that.
There could be
that side.
open space there, but it might also be being used already for some other reason. There may be a piece of equipment on there, one of our reclosers or whatnot. If it is in the space that we're saying it's at, then
Mhm.
we'd have to run underground down and petition for that to come into the development.
I'd rather see
Kind of
that.
unusable, whereas we,
Looks like we can't do anything, can we?
Well, we can, I mean, it's a matter of whether we want to.
I'm wondering, could you put the pole at 60 feet so it's on the other side of the property, further away from the sign on her business, which is close to that corner of her property? I think that may be one of the questions.
the other side of the entryway?
Yeah, the entryway.
I don't know. I didn't engineer it. And
Right,
I'm not
and
gonna
maybe
say
that's a
that-
Verizon
I'm not gonna
question then,
speculate.
too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can ask that to Verizon then, I guess.
Yeah, well, we would need to do that too, and the developer would have to agree to it too. They might need to have it on that side of the road because of where they're tapping off of their water. There are rules and regulations from town to town. I know in Andover, you come in on the left side in all developments because all the water comes in on the right for all the new underground developments. That's just an example. So there may be a reason. Once again, I didn't design it, so I don't know if it can be done.
Okay.
Ask Mrs. Chen to point where she approximately thinks her sign is on the property in relation to her building. Would that be okay?
My sign is right here.
It's basically right in front of the building, essentially, the corner. That's what.
Well, I tell you, I know exactly. Well, what I don't understand is why, when they submit the plan, they plan to use pole 88.
Okay.
Nobody explained to me.
Right.
I expect somebody on the developer should be here, tell me why you changed the plan. That's a big change.
Okay,
They have
to
the
you it
water,
is, yes.
You talking about the water, they have water here, they have gas here, they have sewer here, they have everything here. It's drawn by professional. They should consider everything, right?
Okay, I'm sure they have, yeah. So, okay, so thank you. I mean, this has been very, very informative, enlightening. So, do we want to continue this hearing until we get more information from Verizon and from the,
You're gonna
maybe
have,
the
Mr.
developer?
Gleason up for another hearing, or is?
Yes, yes.
Is there a date for that hearing?
We could set it for the 15th, and if we have to continue it again, we can do that.
Motion to continue the hearing to December 15th, 2014 at 7:30 PM.
We'll say 7.
Oh, 7
Then we
o'clock
can do
PM.
it anytime after 7.
Second.
They need more time to draw the detailed plan to show exactly the cable will not enter my property, because it's very costly.
Well-
They have to change the plan and you
Right.
prove that, and then it's, their cable, underground cable is under my property.
Now, last time we had a petition, I think it was Verizon, and then there was a homeowner who had an issue with the pole was right there. We extended the hearing and the parties worked it out
Right.
and then brought forward a solution to us. So that's our hope that would happen after tonight, is that you guys talk and,
I don't talk, I don't want anybody, cable go under my property.
We understand, but they have to know where you think your property is and where they think their property is, and that's what you have to work out. I mean, if the surveys are wrong, then, you have to figure out where they're wrong and what the right one is. And I'm sure your attorney can help.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we'd be open to any communication.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So we have a
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the continuation?
Aye.
Okay, so
All right.
we'll maybe see you on the 15th.
Yeah,
with-
it could be me or one of the other
Okay.
representatives.
Okay. Well, we're going to have Mr. Gleason up next to talk about his petition and see if he wants to continue or if he just wants to automatically continue, or if you want to tell us about it.
Give you, for the record, Joseph Gleason, Verizon New England Inc. It's located at 900 Chelmsford Street in Lowell. I'll give you a little bit of my perspective on this petition. For the record, what Verizon is seeking on behalf of itself and National Grid is permission to construct one midspan pole, as shown on the plan, approximately 70 feet westerly of existing pole 13/88. I can't speak to the undergrounding portion of this particular project, and as Mr. Boucher said, there may be some compelling reasons why the pole has to be placed on the westerly side of the driveway. But from our perspective, the reason that we're petitioning, or has been related to me from our engineering department, is that this new pole is going to service this new development known as Hillside Gardens there on Littleton Road. Now, one of the issues that wasn't discussed in the last hearing is Littleton Road is Route 110. It's a very busy roadway, and there's a lot of utilities out there. And one of the issues that I saw out there today is that the wires, while not unnecessarily low, probably could use some elevation at that location to avoid any disruption of service, because those are going to be Verizon telephone lines that are hanging at the bottom of that pole line. So in addition to providing the service into the it's not a new subdivision, I think it's a apartment complex. The midspan will also help raise up that line to avoid any problems with trucks or any other type of commercial equipment going into the driveway. In speaking to the abutters' concerns, a lot of times, a lot of information is thrown out at these meetings, and, of course, we would never on any occasion place a pole on anybody's property. Everything that we're looking to do is within the taking or the layout of the roadway. So we certainly would not be encroaching, or we would never want to encroach on anybody's private property. And if there was going to be any sort of encroachment, if we need to put a guy wire, or if we need to go on the property, we would then, of course, seek an easement from the property owner. I have to say it, if there is some issue with a sign at that location in relation to the pole, I have to be honest with you, my first response would be I'd have to look at the position of the sign. Normally, if the signs on any given roadway are placed appropriately and correctly, obviously on private property, they should be appropriately set back from the layout of the road, and there shouldn't be that interference that you see with the poles. And those occasions where Verizon has been accused of obscuring commercial signage, we have found more often than not that the sign is actually encroaching within the taking, as opposed to the sign or the pole encroaching on private property.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my little 2-second editorial on that. So, Madam Chairman, that's my presentation. And I'm sure I'll be back on the 15th as well. So.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Gleason?
Does it have any more effect that it's a state road as opposed to a town road, or does that have any bearing, any more bearing?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Madam Chairman. Littleton Road is Route 110. If this particular portion of Littleton Road is state maintained, then it would be up to Mass DOT to make the ultimate determination. I haven't been informed that this portion of it is actually state maintained. I would assume that without being informed of that and my being here tonight, that this is within the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen. I hope that answers Mr. Dixon's question appropriately.
No, we have the correspondence from our town engineer that Littleton Road is a Mass DOT roadway and additional state approvals may be necessary.
Oh, then I stand corrected on that. I wasn't aware that was Mass DOT jurisdiction. So ultimately, we can argue this, and I know that Verizon will be deferential to the board and to the abutters, but if it is, as Mr. Cohen has said, if that is state maintained, then an application will be filed with Mass DOT, and ultimately they'll make the determination absent a public hearing. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, so if anybody has anything else to add, we've heard from the one abutter, and we will record that those same concerns are also for this hearing.
Are we going to defer this one, too?
I think we should, yeah.
Just want to make sure that both the National Grid and Verizon rep have the contact information of the abutter and their attorney before leaving today to work something out.
The DOT?
The DOT is on their own.
So they don't want to put it in the wrong place and have to move.
Well, that's true, right. Okay, any other comments, questions, discussion? Okay, could we have a motion to?
Motion to continue the joint poll petition hearing for Littleton Road to December 15th, 2014 at 7:00 p.m.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
One thing, while we're talking about polls, whatever happened to the double poll study?
report.
We got an email forwarded by Paul, last week, that they've been delayed on that and they expect to have it done in January. Was that what they said?
so.
I think January.
January, okay.
We should have it at some point. Okay. Our next public hearing, tax classification. I don't know who will be presenting that.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Oh, I'm sorry, you go first.
It's all right.
For the record, Sam Chase, Chairman of the Chelmsford Board of Assessors. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Mr. Town Manager Cohen. Board of Assessors is here before you, as we are every year, as required by Massachusetts state law, to participate in a public hearing, and the purpose is to provide an open forum for the discussion of local property tax policy, which in essence boils down to whether or not this board will adopt a uniform or a split tax rate. So that's why we're here. And for the record, the Board of Assessors in Chelmsford is a three-person board. I'm the chairman, and the two other members are Jack Duffett and Elise Magnan. And of course, Frank Green is our chief assessor, and Mr. Reen will be doing the bulk of the presentation this evening with regard to the technical aspects that you're interested in. Just a couple of things that I'd like to highlight of interest. Last year, in fiscal 2014, we had an interesting situation in that the real estate value, the total real estate value of the town actually declined from the prior year. We had a decline of about 0.7% in value with regard to residential properties and vacant land and miscellaneous mixed use. We also had a decline in the commercial property base last year versus fiscal 2013 of 1.9%. That is a little bit misleading because in actuality, commercial real estate went up by 5.7%, 214 versus 213. The industrial real estate value went up 1.6%. The personal property valuation dropped by 23% year over year, fiscal 13 to fiscal 14. So although we had commercial real estate and industrial real estate show a fairly healthy gain in value versus the residential year over year 13 to 14, the fall in valuation of personal property year over year in those years caused the CIP sector to lose value in total. The reason for that loss in personal property value, you may remember, we talked a little about it last year, was the fact that we lost a lot of the personal property value base as a result of reclassification of two commercial enterprises in Chelmsford to the manufacturing status. Companies that are classified as manufacturing status do not pay personal property tax, so we lost that value. Also, we did have to follow a more aggressive depreciation schedule that particular year, so that caused us to lose the value. But the point I want to really emphasize is, although the overall property class values went down, 213 versus 214, it was not the commercial land or the industrial land. Those increased. It was the personal property that went down, okay? Let's talk a little about 2015. We saw a turnaround, or we're seeing a turnaround, I should say, in residential property values versus the prior year, where we actually lost value this year. Residential real estate values, which includes vacant land, mixed use, miscellaneous, and so forth, is up 4.8%. The CIP base is up 5.05%. So the increase in value in CIP, percentage-wise, is a little bit higher than the increase in residential, which, if you look at, and I don't know which slide it is in your deck, I think it's number 8, you'll see that there's been a slight shift in value away from the residential to the commercial. That's a naturally occurring shift as a result of market activity. So that's a significant thing to note. You'll also be interested to note, I think, that this year the tax rate is going down from what it was in fiscal 2014. Fiscal 2014, we had a property tax rate, and that year you folks adopted a uniform rate, did not split the rate, so we had a uniform rate of $18.98 per thousand of real estate valuation. This year, we're projecting that rate to decline 28 cents to $18.70. The average residential value increased, as can be expected from what I just told you about the general increase overall in residential property. Prior 3 years, that value was relatively flat at around $323,000 for a single-family residence. This year, the average value is up to $338,434, which is a 4.7% increase. So that's just a little bit of high-level statistics for your information. If you would like more detail, we can forward that information to you if you'd like it. A couple of other things I'd like to point out of interest to the community is always the number of income and expense questionnaires that are returned by the commercial property owner base. We had what was perceived to be a significant problem in getting that information back from those property owners prior to fiscal 2007. The average for Chelmsford was running around 26%. State average was about the same on returns. Due to a very aggressive program initiated by our office, and I have to give some credit to the Chelmsford Business Association, who stepped up to the plate and put some pressure on their membership to help us with that activity and getting those income and expense questionnaire forms back to us. The last 3 years, we've been running over 50% return rate. Fiscal 12 was 52%, fiscal 13 is 55, fiscal 14 is 52. So it's in that range over the last 4 or 5 years. The state average of return continues to be around 28%, so we're doing significantly better than the statewide average. Why is that important? Those income and expense forms are used by the assessors to establish the market for commercial and industrial properties. That's the market basis. So the more of that information we can get back, the more integrity that data has, the more accurate the market data is for establishing the assessments. Relative to abatements, we're running about 60 to 100 requests a year over the last 3 years. This year, we had residential abatement requests, and that includes vacant land as well, of 66. We granted 43 abatements. Commercial industrial was 37. We granted 22. We've been very aggressive in trying to dispose of our appellate tax board cases. You heard a little bit about that from Mr. Reen in the prior presentation. We now have 1 left over from fiscal 13. We have 14 that are pending in fiscal 14. Before I turn the balance of the presentation over to Mr. Reen, and I make this statement every year because I think it's important that people understand. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, state law places the responsibility for determining whether or not the town adopts a uniform or a split tax rate with your board. No one else gets to make that decision by statute. This is a decision by the Board of Selectmen in cities. It's done by the City Council. The assessors have nothing whatever to do with establishing the tax rate or deciding what it's going to be. We don't set tax rates. Our job strictly is to establish property class values through the required mass appraisal techniques that are dictated to us under state law and the process that we have to follow. And I think it's important for residents to remember generally that the tax rate really is only a mathematical calculation, which is really whatever the proposed levy is, the property tax levy, divided by the total real estate value of the town. If you're setting a uniform rate, that's how you calculate the tax rate. Whatever the levy is that you're going to raise, you take the total real estate value of the town and you divide the levy with the value and you get the tax rate. It's just a mathematical calculation. So if the levy goes up, which it usually does every year, and the property value stays the same or goes down, the rate is going to go up. If the levy goes up and the property value goes up by a percentage that exceeds whatever the allowable levy increase percentage is, then the tax rate will go down. You get that question all the time. Property values go up substantially as they did 8, 9, 10 years ago. Property values increased very rapidly on the residential sector, and the tax rates went down very substantially. But people's taxes continued to go up. And that's the way it works. So people who think that the tax rate in and of itself determines the amount of tax they pay, that is not correct. It is simply a mathematical calculation. It's the amount of the levy, which is driven by the budget, and the value of the real estate. That's what dictates the tax rate. So the Board of Assessors, as a matter of policy, does not make any comment on the advisability of establishing a uniform or a split rate. That is a political decision that rests with your board. We do not get involved in those discussions, nor will we. So having said that, I will now turn the balance of the presentation over to Mr. Reen, and please feel free to ask any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, Chairman. As Sam indicated, this is a hearing held by law to look at a number of different issues. The selectmen decide whether to tax all classes of the property the same or at different rates. Areas that we'll be reviewing in this presentation will include exemptions, abatements, compliance, sales data. I give a sample of some of the sales. There's conducting of the minimum residential factor, historical review of some of the tax rates and levy shares, and the effects of shifting the tax rate on various classes of property. The narrative portion that I handed out, the longer version, includes a lot of information regarding the evaluation cycle, the assessment level and uniformity, some information regarding the recap and state review and certification. These sections here are ultimately the areas that we'll be looking at. The small commercial exemption. Small commercial exemption is an exemption granted to those commercial parcels that are valued at $1 million or less, have 10 or fewer full-time employees. If you can shift up to 10%, that would shift that amount over to the remaining commercial industrial property owners. So it gives a tax break, if you will, to any valued properties of $1 million or less, assuming they're eligible, and shifts that burden to the remaining commercial industrial. Residential exemption works in a similar way. It's granted to any taxpayer of the principal residence of the properties. There are 13 communities that participate in this. It reduces the taxable valuation up to 20% of the average assessed value of all residential class properties. And once again, it shifts that burden to apartments, seasonal homes, if that's the kind of community it is, and of course higher valued homes. The kinds of communities that have this are Edgartown, Brookline, Cambridge has it. Communities that are seasonal or have a lot of non-owner occupied properties. This is the open space, thank you. The open space is similar in that it's a discount granted up to 25% for qualifying properties of an acre or more of buildable land. And once again, it shifts that burden to the remaining residential class. You can shift up to 25%. As Sam indicated, on the commercial properties, the income and expense submission is around 52% this year, which is pretty consistent with the last several years. This is a cross-section with the residential, a really good sample of the kinds of sales that we had. They range in different types and styles. This is for calendar 13, and the analysis is a ratio analysis, and you can kind of see that it ranges from a ratio of 86 to 99, representing sort of the higher end of the relationship between assessment and sale price. The bottom are all of the arm's length commercial properties that we had, and that was a 99, a median assessment of 99. Residential factor, the minimum residential factor is established by the Department of Revenue. It dictates what percentage, if you so choose, we can go up by. If you can increase the commercial, industrial, and the personal property, the CIB, up to 50% is ultimately what the DOI would determine. Next is kind of a history since 1983 through 2015 of our levy shares, the average tax bill amount given the average assessed value. And you can see proposed for 2015, the average assessed value is $338,434 with a proposed valuation or tax amount of $6,329. That marks an average $210 increase going from last year to this year. This next slide kind of shows the effects of the shift. This is our proposed tax rate is $1870 based on an $87 million levy amount. You can kind of see the relative effects on a $200,000 property. It's roughly $3,740. If you shift it, you can see that the valuations decline, while the commercial industrial, once again, the average at $871,000, begin to ascend. 1.5 would be the maximum allowable. You can see that it goes up fairly dramatically for the commercial industrial, and the savings for the residential is fairly significant as well. This slide here is something that started maybe 5-6 years ago, where one of the selectmen asked that we kind of grab maybe a dozen or so communities that are comparable or abutting Chelmsford and show what the relative increase in tax amounts over a 10-year period. And that's what this is, concluding in 2014. Chelmsford's just about 30. You can kind of see other communities, Westford at 24.5, and others around 30, 32, some more, Tewksbury at 46. This next slide, something Sam just put into the analysis, and it kind of shows the per capita. It's kind of self-explanatory. The percent of the budget. These are the same communities, I believe, that were just on the former page. The budget, how much the levy is, what percentage of the budget is taken up in the levy, levy per capita. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions from the board at this time?
So you anticipate a $210 increase in taxes?
That's right.
That's the average?
Exactly. What I did, Janet, is I took the average assessed value last year times the tax rate, that given that amount, and compared it to the same this year. 210 is the number.
Okay.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Does anybody here want to make any comment to the board regarding tax classification? Okay. Seeing none, we typically do continue this public hearing to our next scheduled meeting. This year, as you know, we've gone through some challenges and some scheduling issues that have caused us to be a little bit later than usual to have the tax classification hearing. I would propose that we waive the 2-week waiting period so that we can set our tax classifications scheduled this evening so that the assessors can move forward with preparing tax bills to be sent out.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And I will then entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You ready for a motion?
Sure. Was there going to be any discussion?
Okay, is it going to, okay, do we have any more questions?
No?
Full discussion, maybe. I mean, I
Okay.
just want to thank you for the presentation, and I think it's nice that you point out all this data so the board here and everyone watching at home can get a real good idea of what the tax rate really means, how taxes have trended over the year, what a split rate would mean, and everything like that. I particularly like the slide you put together of how much taxes have increased in Chelmsford compared to all of our surrounding communities. When you compare us to all of our peers, it really shows that we're on the lower end, not the lowest necessarily, but we're definitely among the lowest of all of our peers going back over a 14-year period. So it's just interesting to point out. And just as far as my support tonight, I'll vote the way I have the past few years to maintain a flat tax rate. I know it's part of our sales pitch to our businesses, and our economic development committee uses that as a carrot to try and attract new businesses and help keep the businesses we have here. Certainly only one thing that we can do, but it's one that we have been using, and I'd like to continue that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any other comments?
I'd just like to make the comment that, and thank you for your presentation. You know, While I'd like to control the growth of property taxes and try to provide some relief to our seniors, folks on fixed incomes, families, paying a lot of athletic and activity fees, I don't want to do that by being punitive to our business community and basically our partners in town. So I do plan to vote for a single tax rate.
Okay, anyone else? No? George? Okay.
It is a motion for a single tax rate, right?
Yes.
Is that the proper?
And
Okay.
then we also have to, you can include about to maintain the same level on the commercial, on the exemptions, the several exemptions that,
The residential and the commercial exemption and the open space to keep them the same.
you get those?
Yeah, let me, I already flipped through my book. Make a motion that we, okay, make a motion that the town of Chelmsford adopts a single tax rate for fiscal year 15, and that we continue the exemptions, abatements as presented.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night, Mr. Commissioner.
Okay. Next on our agenda is a discussion regarding the town clerk's proposal to consolidate polling locations.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so, I don't know if the town clerk wanted to come up and make a presentation, an additional presentation, or just answer questions, whatever you want to at this point.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. I do not have a presentation for you as I spoke back on November the 10th. However, I would be delighted to answer any questions or provide any further information.
Okay. Does anybody have any additional questions for the town clerk?
Comments, no questions per se. no.
Okay, then we can begin the discussion and try to come to some consensus and conclusion. Anybody want to begin?
I think Matt does.
I think he does.
Sure. So I've had, thank you for your presentation last week on Arena, or a few weeks ago now. And we got caught up with town meeting. I'll just say this was a difficult decision tonight. I know all of us have spoken with many community residents about this. It is a big change. I'd like to thank Honorina and her team for really doing their due diligence and exploring the issue. And ultimately, the most important thing, I guess, in my opinion, in making this decision is moving the polling locations out of the elementary schools, which I know is one of your goals. So I think tonight, I'd start by saying I do plan on voting in favor of this. But I do want to say it wasn't an easy decision, I just say at first I was very hesitant to the idea of consolidating the polling locations and making it more difficult for people to get to the polls. But ultimately, I know Honorina and her team are doing a lot with early voting. That's going to be starting soon, and this is going to be getting the voting out of the elementary schools, which is it is a safety concern. It's one that I guess had been talked about for a few years. So I'm glad we put a plan in place to do this. And to the people in town who this is going to burden as far as making it more difficult to get to the polls, I'm sure that we're all going to work diligently to try and make sure that we have all the resources available for as far as getting people rides if they need them, calling your office ahead of time, calling the town manager's office, and doing whatever it takes to help make sure that people have absentee ballots or have a ride to the polls. And I know it's not perfect. We don't have an ideal center location that could fit everyone in town, like might be ideal, but I think this is probably the most appropriate location that does get the voting out of the elementary schools. So that's ultimately why I'm going to be voting in favor of this tonight.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Anybody else? Bob?
Yeah, as Matt said, this was a difficult one, and while I would have preferred that we went to one location, like a lot of towns did. I think this is the best we can do at this point, and so I'm going to support it. Thank you.
Janet, have any comments?
I do plan to support it as well. I have a lot of respect for the town clerk and her staff. The Board of Registrars have weighed in, public safety officials. For me, the biggest issue was the safety for the children. And I know Lori Myers has been talking about that for quite a while. And I believe practically on your first day, she had mentioned that, that was certainly a concern of hers. And while, that's not something we all want to think that could happen in our town, we're not a perfect town. We do have various issues. And as I was going back and forth, I've talked to a lot of people about this, and, I've gotten both sides of the issue. The thing that kind of really sealed it for me was if something, if we didn't move forward with this tonight and didn't approve it, and something did happen in a school, I'm just not willing to take that risk, and I just don't think I could ever live with myself. So, once I kind of wrapped my head around that, it became a pretty easy decision. In preparation for the referrals, I was going to talk briefly tonight about the capital improvement plan, and I noticed that this year again, we're looking to spend, close to $200,000 in the schools for security system cameras and keyless entry, and all of that is around keeping our kids safe. So if that's our mindset and that's, our goal, then it just seems natural that this should follow. And I think there's extra safety for other folks in town, including our seniors. Some of these locations are dark, especially here at Town Hall. I hate parking in the back even for tonight. It just gives me the willies. So, I know over at McCarthy, it's much nicer parking lot now, on both sides, lots of bright lighting. So I just feel good about it all around. So thank you for bringing this forward, and I fully support it.
George?
Well, I'm going to support it. I have all the confidence in the world in Honorina. I think she's done a fantastic job since she's been here. I know she's put a lot of work into this, and I was sold on it in the beginning. So.
Okay. And I will definitely make it unanimous once the motion is made. I think a lot of work has gone into coming up with the best places. As has been said, it's never going to be perfect, and you're never going to make everybody happy, but do the best we can. And then if we have this voting at the town election in April, we can see how it works. And if there need to be some tweaks, I'm sure that everybody would be amenable to that. So.
Yeah, to that point, if I could just piggyback on that, I think this is, it's a big change, and I hope, and I know everyone involved will maybe be just open in the future, and, still looking at it. I don't see any other potential sites where we could house this many voters apart from the ones that we've identified so far, but I do know some people have still had some concerns about McCarthy and would like the voting out of the schools completely. I mean, I know that you've heard a lot of different things about just canceling school completely on that day or moving it to other days of the week, like the weekend, and I know each of those has their own issues, but I'd just like us, as a community to keep thinking about those options moving forward. And just see how things develop and see how it works this time.
If I may address different days of the week, we could only do that for town elections. The Tuesdays are set by MGL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but definitely, this is going to be a work in progress as we move forward. That is why I already have a tentative meeting for tomorrow for the census vendor to get a flyer going upon
Shouldn't
your
delay tonight.
upon.
Is that what you're saying?
All right. Can we have a motion then?
Make a motion that we consolidate polling locations to the Chelmsford Senior Center and McCarthy Middle School, beginning with the April 2015 election.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Good luck.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your patience. I know that I've inundated you with information, so thank you. I would like to thank, is Thaddeus still here? Thad
Yes.
Soleil. He has been my right arm, and same thing with Jennifer. So and Ms. Myers and all the public safety officials. It was a lot of work. We did put a lot of thought into it. And again, as we move forward, we want to work with you. Any of your ideas, any suggestions, please just send them on over. And again, thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on town manager report.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of items briefly this evening. The first one, and it just want to formally notify the community, since our last meeting, which has been 3 weeks ago, we did receive from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection the final decision for approval of the Glenview landfill closure plan. The application had been filed on May 16th, and we did, the decision has been issued. As she has a date stamp of November 21st. The information is available online. And regarding the issue of truck traffic, they did specify as a condition that the trucks delivering and grading and shaping materials shall be travel to the site by Route 3 to Drum Hill Road to Westford Street to the existing site driveway, and they shall use the same route in the reverse direction to leave the site, and the truck shall not enter or exit the site from Stedman Street, and no alteration of the truck route as described shall occur without the consent of the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen. So I just wanted to let people know that that decision has been done, and we're still waiting for a traffic date after the holidays from the applicant in terms of when he would have that public meeting in the community.
Okay.
And once I get that, I'll let the community and the board know. Just two other quick matters under my report. The construction of the new fire department headquarters is rapidly nearing its conclusion. The movers are scheduled for this Friday. We expect to have a certificate of substantial occupancy by the end of this week. And if all goes well, the department will be operating out of there this coming Sunday. With that being said, we have scheduled a ribbon cutting and open house for the new fire department headquarters next door here at 50 Billerica Road for Saturday, December 13th. The ceremonies will begin at 2 o'clock, and then the open house and so forth will run till 4 p.m. that afternoon. Also on site that day will be the new ladder truck that the town has purchased, but is not yet in service. And also we anticipate the new engine that was approved 2 years ago will also be on site. So again, it's a rather important day. Again, Saturday, December 13th, beginning at 2 p.m. with the dedications and ribbon cuttings, and then again the open house till 4. With that being said, the fire department does anticipate that they will still, even with the move going on, that for the holiday prelude, they will still have the hot cocoa and so forth out of the North Road station, even though at that time they may not be operating out of that station, but that may be the last activity in there before the doors are shut.
There's a use.
And then
It's a hot cocoa station.
And then the other thing I'd remind the board regarding the Dutton House and uses, the proposals are due this Wednesday at 11 a.m. And again, we anticipate bringing that back for your consideration at the next meeting in 2 weeks, assuming that all goes well. So that's all I have.
How many, do we know how many bidders there are?
No, it's a formal bid, so we
Right,
don't know how
okay.
many will come
Okay.
in. That'll be again this Wednesday at 11 a.m. is the
Okay.
deadline for proposals.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have this evening.
Not bid, you have to
Questions?
take,
It's proposals. It's not the highest bidder.
Questions, Paul, you have on here Mill Road Committee
That's,
and.
No, that's not me. That's the
Oh,
chair.
that's the next
That's the
one?
chair's. That's the chair's
Sorry.
headache.
Yeah, really.
Go ahead.
Okay, next on the agenda is committee announcements for two new committees that were, one was specified at the town meeting to be formed for the 101 Mill Road to determine uses for that. And the other one, it was suggested, for 7 North Road, where the current center fire station is, to form a committee to try to come up with some potential uses for that. I put together these descriptions. They're, as you can see, very bare bones, kind of intentionally, because I think each committee should have a wide berth as to what they're going to consider. Tonight, I would ask for the other board members, number one, do you like the names of the committees? We could call them something other than 101 Mill Road and 7 North Road committees.
That's fine.
The composition, town meeting did specify that the Mill Road one had to have at least 2 active town meeting representatives from Precinct 9. the North Road one, for both, I indicated like a 7-member committees. I think
Yeah.
for an ad hoc committee, I think 7 members is good. It gives you more opportunity to get more ideas in a shorter period of time, and more likely to have a quorum, too.
Mhm.
So any other ideas, suggestions?
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, I'm just guessing that we're also going to have a selectman
I don't know that we need to.
as a liaison.
Oh, I mean, yeah, we
Like
probably
George
would.
was with the grinder pump.
Right, but, you know, I
He
mean-
didn't sit with the committee, but he
Right.
reported back their
And-
activities.
And any selectman obviously can go to any meeting at any time.
Mhm.
So we could do that, yeah.
One or two.
Well, I don't know more than one liaison, I would think.
Okay.
But, you know, I don't know that we would want to have a selectman on either one of the committees.
No,
We
not
could-
on the committee, but, you
Right.
know, someone who would report back,
Mhm.
be charged with reporting back.
Mhm.
On both committees, with all due respect to the people who volunteer in town, I'd really like to see some new faces
I
and
would
new
too.
names.
Sure.
Almost to the point where I wonder if we should say, if you're already on a committee, you can't sit on
Well,
these.
I wouldn't preclude them from applying. I mean, that's how we would vote
Yeah.
on those, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a question, too. I mean, I had asked that applications be submitted by December 10th, which is just a little over a week
Right,
away.
right, right.
Is that enough time? If not, we can wait and
Yeah, it may not
inform the committees in January, give them till the
Yeah.
end of the year to apply.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good
Okay.
idea.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I just hope that we get some new people, not the same old people that
Well,
we
I think
see
we'll
all
have
the
at least one new person that we saw here
Yeah.
earlier
Yeah.
that will
Former
apply.
town meeting rep, though, does that count?
No.
We'll let you use your
No,
discretion
no,
on
no,
that
I'm just
one.
saying, you know, if they're
Right.
sitting on all these other committees, you know.
No, I know.
I just want new blood.
Right, I agree. I absolutely agree. I like it when we have newer people that we haven't seen before come forward for,
So what's your deadline for the next meeting in February would be the 5th?
I mean, January.
January 5th, yeah. I'm sorry, January 5th would be your
Would our
meeting.
packets have to go out?
Well, New Year's is that Thursday, the 1st,
How about
so we
the-
probably
the
would have them
30th?
out the 30th of December?
With-
Okay.
For the deadline, for the 30th.
Okay, and then we'll get your packets out on the 31st.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
For 3 weeks.
okay.
yeah, okay,
December
sounds
30th,
good.
okay.
All right.
Can we make that, make this kind of a feature on our homepage for the town, Paul?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on the committee announcements? And we can add those to our list, too, to read for the next.
Maybe we
At our
could get
next
it on the TV stations. Someone could do a little thing that goes up there
Yeah.
for these two.
The telemedia
You talk to
site, sure.
telemedia about
Okay.
that.
Telemedia, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a great.
And we can also hope that our media representatives here publicize
Right.
both new committees.
Front page.
Front page, there you go.
Big seller right here.
Okay, on to minutes. We have several sets of minutes. First one is regular meeting minutes for June 30th. Any comments, corrections on these?
Make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of June 30th, 2014.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
And we have regular meeting minutes for July 28th. Any corrections, comments? No?
Make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of July 28th, 2014.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, another regular meeting on October 27th. Any corrections, comments?
Make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of October 27th, 2014.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
We had tri-board meeting minutes from November 3rd. Any corrections, edits?
George, you weren't there.
Right.
Jeff? Oh, you,
All set.
okay.
Make a motion to approve the tri-board meeting minutes of November 3rd, 2014.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
And we have, Was that the first one? No, November 17th, this was the meeting that we had right before,
Where's this?
Town meeting.
right before town meeting.
Oh.
November 17th. Any comments, corrections?
Yep.
What?
It's all set.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 17th, 2014.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we have, okay, another meeting right before town meeting on November 20th. Any edits, comments?
Bob, you were not there.
Right, that's when you came in as we entered executive session, so you weren't
Oh,
there for
right.
that part.
Well, I wasn't there for the regular, but I was there
Correct.
for the executive?
Correct.
Yes,
Yep.
right, okay.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 20th, 2014.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain?
And last is executive session minutes from November 20th.
For these to be,
I think not to be released.
No.
Any other edits, comments? Okay.
make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of November 20th, 2014, not to be released.
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. All right, we're to Selectmen Liaison Reports and Referrals. Let's start with George.
I'd like to congratulate Kronos and this company down the street. It's our largest employer in town, and they were selected as the best place to work in Massachusetts. And, we're fortunate to have their world headquarters right here in Chelmsford, and I think something to be very proud of, and I'd like to congratulate them. Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Janet?
Let me start off, I just have a question for you, Paul. I had a few residents ask me. So the sidewalks with the snow process, if you could just kind of give us an overview of that and, what their responsibility is. And I guess the biggest question is, if I'm walking down the street and I have to walk on the street because somebody hasn't plowed their portion of the sidewalk, is there a point at which, I guess, what's the process for that? And at some point, does the town take it over so that there isn't a public safety issue, or how's that work?
Well, the town of Chelmsford does not have a bylaw, unlike many other communities, that requires residents to clear the sidewalks in front of their homes. I think we last discussed that idea about 3 or 4 years ago, and it didn't even make the warrant for the town meeting because of the pushback that came of putting that obligation upon residents. For over a decade, well over a decade, again, prior to my arrival, prior to the current Public Works Director, the town has had a practice of sidewalk removal. Now, the town has over 26.25 miles of sidewalks through the community. And the practice has been, and continues today, to be at first addressing, we operate 2 sidewalk plows. And those are operational and staffed. The first priority has been and continues to be sidewalk and crosswalk clearing near the school zones. And that became particularly acute several years back when they instituted busing fees, and that increased the number of children who were walking to school. So generally on the night of snow, after snowfall, the first priority is to do about 5.5 miles around the schools. And again, we've got, the elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. So you've got the 8 school areas, and even though it's only 5.5 miles, you move in 2 sidewalk plows around the community to do that work. Basically, on the second day, the priority has been and continues to be to do the centers, i.e. Central Square and Vinyl Square. And there you've got about almost 10 miles of sidewalks in those vicinities. Includes in front of this building, the town offices and so forth, the center, and similarly up in North Chelmsford. And then you go out to the remaining areas, of which there's about 11 miles of sidewalk remaining, and that's when you get onto your Stedman Streets and your Old Westford Roads and Chelmsford Street and Princeton Street and so forth. The issue with Chelmsford Street, and, you know, and that's been a particular concern, is the town does not conduct snow removal on Chelmsford Street. That is done similar to Littleton Road. We heard earlier this evening, there was a state maintained and operated, so the state does the snow and ice removal. The state does not do sidewalk clearing. So therefore, the burden falls upon the town. And so we get out there, again, with that level of priority. And, you know, that all assumes going well. I mean, if you have a situation where you have a mechanical breakdown, you can see how those schedules can really get gummed up. But that has been the practice and policy. Obviously, the issues arrive usually with the first snowfall. When we had the snowfall on Wednesday evening into Thursday, again, it was a Thanksgiving holiday.
And it turned to ice,
and
which
it turned to
kind of
ice,
exacerbates
which
the
didn't help
problem.
things. And then also there was a football game that morning, so you did note that the field was cleared, so we diverted some resources, not sidewalk plows, but human resources to have the field conditions done that morning. And then basically, you know, we continued. Fortunately, there was no school on Friday, and then we did have warming temperatures on Sunday and today. I was in town, even checking things out last evening when I drove through town, and the sidewalks were done. And it's not just the sidewalks themselves. I mean, even places where you could see barren sidewalks, you'll often get to the point where you get to the corner and you'll have the snowbank and so forth. Well, that has to be cleared as well, because you can imagine somebody that's impaired and so forth, or traveling with a device, you know, then that needs to be cleared as well. So again, that is the process, but you can see it can take up to, in some cases, 3 to 4 days before every area gets addressed in the community.
Okay. Thank you. I have more.
Sure.
Oh, did you have a question?
I had a question on that. Now, Warren Ave has just been done.
Yes, that is
Will that eventually be,
that's added to the list. I went down Warren Ave to sort of see what was there, and that is on the list. Warren Avenue was added for the season. They're also added Glen Avenue to the bike trail, which is down by the Stop and Shop in that area. Some residents do clear, but I would say, looking on the roadway, there had to have been 75% that were not cleared. And then again, the town eventually gets there. And it's not, you know, so anyway, that is, but we do have Warren Avenue on the list now.
because that is a school, that is a road that leads to a school.
Mm-hmm.
South Row, right?
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. On the school side, this morning, the school finance subcommittee met. On that subcommittee that I'm aware of is Nick DeSilvio, Evelyn Thoren, the superintendent, the interim business manager. And their focus in this meeting was preparation of the fiscal year 16 budget, and to also outline a budget presentation plan, you know, how they're going to roll out their budget. And this is what was communicated to me. They're going to be discussing this budget presentation plan at tomorrow's school committee meeting to get the buy-in from the whole school committee. And if that's accepted, here's the general plan. They'll have a preliminary budget to the school committee on January 7th. After that, they'll schedule a public input session. And then by January 28th, they will roll out their budget, proposed budget, to the town manager, Board of Selectmen, and to FinCom. And I guess there was a lot of discussion this morning about they're going to be developing a needs-based budget versus a budget based on history, where they'd look through each line item and say, okay, last year we had 600,000 devoted to this. They're going to start back, take a step back and take a look and say, what does this department actually need? What do we need for funding for this line item? And so they're kind of taking a different approach this year. Also, tomorrow night, there is a school committee meeting. There's several topics that may be of interest. One is a maintenance update, which they have on a quarterly basis. They're going to be talking about the budget calendar, which I just mentioned. They're also going to be talking about the 2015-16 school calendar. That's before or after Labor Day start, and usually people are very interested in that discussion. And they also had on here that there's going to be a discussion regarding the superintendent's goals for the upcoming year. And I did want to on the schools kind of end on a high note. Over at Parker Middle School, the grade 7 students collected money and food to create Thanksgiving dinner baskets for members of the Parker community who would otherwise go without. They raised over $900 and had food donations, allowed them to assemble 10 Thanksgiving dinner baskets along with gift cards. And they also donated 4 boxes of food to the Chelmsford Food Pantry. So congratulations to them. There is a Finance Committee meeting this upcoming Thursday at 7:30. Their agenda says there's going to be a recap of fall and special town meeting. There's going to be liaison assignments and discussing the budget timetable. And just one other thing. Capital Planning meeting is this Friday at 7:30 a.m. and it looks like Council on Aging, Municipal and School Facilities is going to be on the list. And I wanted to pass out and make copies for each of you. Paul, I figured you had a copy of the proposed capital plan.
Yep, Friday's the third meeting of the committee.
Just so you have that.
Third meeting.
Yep. Just a couple quick highlights on the capital plan. Let's see. The request this year is going to be a little over 3.2 million. So committee's going to have quite a job on their hands to try to whittle that down. Information technology for servers, switches, storage. They're looking at requests of 100,000. Council on Aging came forward with a request for a Wi-Fi cafe and a senior fitness room and storage renovation. 2 of those are going to be in excess of about $250,000, $270,000. Library just has one small request of computer replacement of $30,000. Police department, again, something minor, replace animal control vehicle, surveillance system upgrade. Fire department, one of their biggest requests, replace fire station alerting system for $141,000. Public Works, it looks like some of the normal requests for road maintenance, DPW sidewalk construction, drainage improvements, and some requests for equipment. Cemetery's looking to replace a dump truck for $51,000. And then on the school side, goes over to page 7. Their one large request is to replace the bathrooms over at the high school. And that's going to be a little over $800,000, which was expected. That was the large expense, as they were looking to upgrade the bathrooms over the years. Couple expenses on the school administration offices. They got to replace the roof, the server room, HVAC unit needs replaced. And then for technology over in the schools, they're looking to add some more 21st century classroom. And that's about $150,000. And then, as I mentioned earlier, some more security cameras and keyless entry. So those are kind of the bigger items. But there's 27 pages of detail behind it. I did not make copies for you guys of that. But Paul, where is this out on the town website? Because I had gotten this from John Souza's email, but is this actually out on the town website yet?
I don't know. I'll check.
If it's not, if you could add it, and maybe add it if we have room on the main page, so that everyone
A lot of
can-
things to put on the main page. I think we need to see what, kind of.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much room on the page there is, or if we could
You
at
could
least
put
add.
single lines on it.
Yeah, a single line to highlight it, but, I mean, it's a big expense. It's, $3 million in capital, and we're gonna be borrowing the money, and I'd like for people to be able to pay attention to it easily.
Well,
Thank you,
yeah.
that's all I have.
Okay. All right. Well, how about you?
I'm next. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Paul on being appointed to the Neshoba Valley OPEB committee. Is that right?
OPEB Trust Committee.
Yeah, OPEB. They certainly did their due diligence in checking him out, that he's an expert on this thing. So
Okay.
that will certainly go a long way, I think, when they go to start paying themselves on OPEB. So, I was hoping Sue Gates was going to hang around, but she didn't. But I'd like to know why we don't have a sign on the town hall that says Town Hall. We have it in North, but we don't have it in the center. Now, I understand they have the one over the door, which can stay, but I think where that was renovated as a town hall, then, we should look at the possibility of putting it back up and probably go back a couple of years and see what the design looked like. It would be much higher than what the dual one is.
It may have been to avoid confusion for visitors and residents in the community of the purpose of the building. I mean, she's consciously promotes it as a center for the arts.
Yeah.
And
But the North Town Hall, like I said, has it.
right. And I think there was a sign there
Yeah.
prior to
Oh,
the
yeah.
renovation, but it wasn't as ornate as the one.
No, it wasn't.
No,
It
it
was
was very
not.
plain, and I'm sure there were pictures of it around.
Mhm.
that,
They have one down in a cafe that says Old Town Hall, but that,
Yeah.
that's.
I just think it should be, even though it's pushed as the Center for the Arts, it still should be marked as the town hall.
Right, as long as it doesn't create confusion. I
Yeah.
think that's the
Well,
tricky part, yeah.
Never caused confusion before we renovated it. And there were things operating out of there, so, anyway. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the last session of town meeting, myself and Selectman Askenberg pushed to get $700,000 as part of free cash to be towards the levy. And while it was certainly a disappointing vote, I want people to understand that we did try to do something. And every person that's run on this board has said they would work towards tax relief. And so far, the only person that's got it is Matt.
Well, Bob, I just want to stop you right there, and I guess I kind of take offense at you bringing that up in that way. I mean, I don't think anybody on this board would like anything better than to provide tax relief, and I think we just want to do it in a reasonable way, and I guess,
Yeah.
I guess I just kind of take offense at some of the words you're using.
Well, I think it's important for the public to know that we wanted to write them a check for $50 for
Okay, and you've made your
every
point.
taxpayer.
And you've made your
I'm-
point.
I'm not done making my point. And I think it's important that everybody that makes a statement that says they're going to watch his taxes and not watch them go up. So I think we have an obligation to plan some money each year to get, that would go towards the levy. And I understand the argument about the levy going up every year and you trying to match it, but even if we matched it every year, at least it wouldn't go up as far as it does, so, anyway.
Okay, that it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, Matt?
Point. To quickly say, piggybacking off the OPEB discussion, I don't know if now might be an appropriate time for us to start thinking about any legislative priorities that we might want to bring up or mention to our legislators this year. I know all of our legislators are the same, but we do have a new governor in there.
Let me preempt you just quickly on that. One of my things I was going to mention is at our next meeting, we expect to have the legislative delegation here.
Okay.
So if anybody has things that they would like to pass on to them to be prepared to answer before that time, you can let me know and I'll pass that on to them. So go ahead, you can now
Well, I think
continue.
that would be a great idea, I guess is what I'll say to that. And I will come with some ideas then. Very excited. The new fire headquarters is open. I hope to see everyone on December 13th. And I know we made a big change tonight with the polling locations. I would just like to encourage anyone in the community who has any questions about moving forward to contact Honorina's office. She's very responsive. Or contact any of us at the town manager's office to keep the conversation going. Or if you have any questions or concerns about how you might want to get to the polls on Election Day come April, please feel free to reach out to us. Other than that, please feel free to come to my office hours now at Panera in Drum Hill on Thursdays from 5 to 6 p.m., unless it's town meeting. Other than that, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I just have a couple of things. The first being that I was going to announce that our legislative delegation will be here at the beginning of our next meeting on December 15th. Also, I want to congratulate Chelmsford's newest Eagle Scout, Daniel Tuberty, who, his Court of Honor was last Saturday at the Center for the Arts, a nice event and good turnout, and thanks to Daniel for his project that he did in Chelmsford, which was to turn the boathouse at the old Mill Stream on Mill Road into a conference room, and open to the public. So if anybody has a need for a conference room, it can seat, I guess, set up to 100 people. Let them know, and they'll make it available. So I think that's really great, yeah. Wanted to mention about the recycling committee has started an initiative to try to boost our recycling rate to 30% this year, or this coming year. They're going to be putting posters up around town to give residents ideas on how we can increase recycling to try to reach that objective. So if you see those around town, make sure you do your part to increase recycling. And at the library, on Saturday, December 6th, local author Robert Sullivan will be there. He's authored a couple of children's books, and he's going to be talking about his books and about Santa Claus. So guaranteed to be a good time. And it seems like we have a theme about Santa Claus this evening. We've mentioned his name many times.
Just the season.
I guess so. Okay, do we have any press questions?
Hello.
Okay. Next regular meeting will be December 15th, has been mentioned, and we will again have a public input session on December 8th at the Senior Center. And
At what time?
7 o'clock, December 8th at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
We'll get it.
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.